And it's all those people that get on the internet and want to bitch about something, but then when it gets brought up to them by face, they won't do nothing about it. They'll just cower like a bunch of bitches.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to go into it too much, but anytime I see the news covering shit like this and they're heavy-handed on it, it makes me wonder what they're trying to distract the average person from in the long run. And it's just, and I got a pretty good idea, but we'll talk about that some other time. But it just, I don't trust the fucking news agencies either.
I don't either. Honestly, I don't. I don't, from my experiences, especially for the fact of, how should I put this without giving out too much shit? Okay, so here we go. With me, I'm a vet that has 4 years in the military, medically discharged due to the fact of an injury I sustained. With situations that happen, let's take in, for example, situations overseas. I'm not going to go into any topics or anything like that. But with situations that happen, when the news gets a hold of it, it gets blown way the fuck out of proportion. Way out of proportion, to the point of people are having to call home to families, be like, hey, I'm okay, I'm letting you know this is exactly what happened before the news gets a hold of you. Because there, for instance, there was a guy from Marine Force Recon who he was on one of the podcasts that I watched. He was sitting there talking, and him and his guys raided a compound, and he peeked the corner. When he peeked the corner, he got shot in the helmet, and it was lights out for him. And he thought he was dead because, from his instance, he had an outer body experience, pretty much is what he said. And after a little bit, he got asked by his hire after like a couple weeks, and they asked him, they were like, hey, did you ever call home? He's like, no, why? And before this time, he never got letters, no nothing. And he was sitting there, he was wondering why the fuck he didn't get no letters.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Hire told him to call home, and he called his mom, and he was like, hey, Mom. And his mom was like, who the fuck is this? They mistakenly put him on the killed in actions list.
How the fuck? I remember that video. How the fuck do you do that?
I have no idea. But for the fact of they mistakenly put him on the KIA list, and his family thought he was dead. And you got to take it, for instance, is say like a big topic like that, like instant U.S. Marine killed overseas. The news gets a hold of that and they fucking run with it. It goes from one U.S. Marine killed to all of a sudden they bump it up to like fucking 13, just like that. But they combined all of the events into one, and they say, oh, raid on fucking compound in the Middle East and 13 U.S. Marines dead. Where it's one got shot in the helmet and he fully recovered, and then he got mistakenly put on the KIA list. That right there is the example of the news taking something small and fucking running with it. And the reason why they do that is because they got to make money somehow. And the more they flabbergast shit is how they make more money, because people are like, oh, fuck, I need to know what's going on. I need to know what's going on now. And then that's where the news is like, oh, well, we'll get you next commercial break. And then they go into a commercial break, and then now you're sitting there like, well, fuck, I need to know what's going on.
Well, it's just like an old adage that they've always went by. Good news does not sell. That's just like, take YouTube, for example, and it's not necessarily a news network type of issue. It's a human nature type issue. It's just like whenever you go on YouTube, yeah, you might go on there and, excluding music and movies and stuff like that, but just overall content creator type stuff, you go on there, yeah, you might get on there. It's like, okay, that's kind of cool stuff. But ultimately, you end up looking at some of the stuff that's either locales or just negative type stuff, because it's just people in general love drama. I myself, I started questioning as far as the news as a whole. It wasn't one set thing, but it's usually with right around George Bush Jr. whenever he got elected as president. Just the overall way that they said they conducted themselves around him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the one thing you could expect, because, I mean, at the end of the day, we all have our own opinion on the federal government as a whole. And it's the one thing is, how do you target a big group of people alone? And that's, you tell them some tragic shit's happening from something that's not even that big of a deal, you know? And then that's where they're taking this. They've been knowing that fucking Israel and Hamas have been going at it for years on out. Back, like you said, back during the fucking Old Testament days. And now they're like, well, fuck, we need something to talk about, because everybody's getting tired of hearing the Ukraine shit. So they're like, well, fuck it, Israel, Hamas as a whole. And then that's where they're just taking it and fucking running with it.
Well, and I think it's the Ukraine one. I think they're trying, like you said, I think they're trying to get away from that one because all it's doing is just pissing the United States, the U.S. citizens off more than anything. And I think also another thing that they're trying to do too is it's taking the focus off the Trump trials. There's only so much way that you can twist that one. It's like it's court. It's not open for opinion.
I mean, I agree. Well, fuck it. Let's play this video. Let's see what we got.
All right. This video is basically Ron DeSantis is talking about as far as his stance, as far as the college protests and stuff like that, and as far as how Florida is going to handle it.
Okay. Some respects for what we have to offer when people come. We're also leading on how to handle things like university decorum and these protests. And I look around what's happening at like Columbia. I look around what's happening at places like Columbia, and the inmates are allowed to run the asylum. It doesn't work that way. In the University of Florida, Florida State, all universities have been very strong in saying, you can say what you want, but you don't have the right to commandeer territory. You don't have the right to harass students or faculty or any of that. And if you do violate code of conduct, we're going to show you the door. You will be expelled. And that's what should be done in every part of this country. So we're going to continue to do that and make sure that we are upholding basic standards of conduct and basic standards of decency. And what I found is, these people that do this stuff in these other parts of the country, they do it because there's never any repercussions, and so they just get away with it. The minute you tell one of these people you're not going to graduate from Columbia, you're expelled, you will see a change of behavior. That's just the reality. But the administrators don't have the fortitude and the strength to actually stand up and do what's right. And that's different in Florida. We're doing what's right, and we're going to continue to do that. And we also, and I announced in January that we would be waiving our transfer rules, because usually you have to be in another university for a certain period of time. We're going to be waiving that for students who are being discriminated against. Largely right now, that's Jewish students in this country, given what's going on. Our rules aren't limited to that. I mean, if there's other people that are in a bad environment, we do. But I think you're going to see some of these students in some of these schools to say, you know what, the hell with it. Why would I want to put myself through that and be targeted by these rage mobs on campus? I can come to Florida and actually know that I can study in a good environment and be treated with respect. So I think you're going to start to see a lot of people take us up on that offer. We won't know until the fall semester, but we're a much different environment, and people are noticing that. And what we're doing is the right thing to do. And it's sad that what we're doing is even noticeable, because this should just be kind of how all this is. It used to be you would have some of this campus stuff, maybe at like a Berkeley or in some of these pockets, but now it's kind of become the norm all across most of the United States. I think Florida certainly is an exception, and then there's some others that are exceptions. And the same thing with just outside of university campuses. You have these pro-Hamas people taking over bridges and taking over streets in other parts of the country. They tried to take over a street in Miami, and they got dragged off the street and dumped on the side of the road. We're not going to let you take over the streets. It's absurd that you're going to make people wait in traffic and do all that stuff. It doesn't make sense. So I'm proud of what we have to offer with the natural resources in this, but I'm also proud of just leading with common sense and saying, you know what, Florida is going to be a refuge from the insanity that we see in so many other parts of the country.
You goddamn right.
All right, we have any questions? Anybody back there? First of all, that's not what we've done in Florida at all. You have a right to support or not support Israel. That's a First Amendment. You don't have a right to pitch a tent in the middle of campus and commandeer some of the property. And so what we've seen is when students, and there haven't been that many